why you can't do their job. And I said, well, here is just a little tidbit of information. If I was you, I'd figure out less ways to be out in the public.
Where are you going? And, you know, they'd say, oh, you're gonna be here. Or somewhere there for a week.
There he is. We can start now. Would you, hey, would you dump that for me?
I will.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You want some more?
Move,
Want something?
I'm good.
It's just,
Where are you saying?
in the office.
Hello there, how are you?
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Well, she has,
Good.
and she has.
Let me get my coffee out of your way.
I'll walk in.
Nice to meet you, Rico Leslie King.
The water store. She said, no, I'm right there.
Leslie King.
Are you willing?
I was. I hope I'm still there.
Well, I think you are.
I ain't been getting off.
Oh, he's doing about 5 hours.
Did you?
Don't let me come to sleep in the
And just traveled and walked.
Yeah, it's nice that you do all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
To Newark. Spent the night.
They're gonna switch on me.
Oh, yeah, they said they got a phone.
I said, as long as I'm
Anyway, I think Darwin.
Well, let me tell you the ones to look out for, okay? Willie, Noah,
Mr. Willie, did you talk to Mike Rumble? Did you talk to Mr. Noah?
have not. I have not.
Okay, well, if he doesn't show up, I'll find out.
Oh, that was.
Good morning, how are
It's
you?
Tuesday, Thursday.
We got problems in Bristol.
I'm sure you did, and now you get one.
Where you from?
Y'all can check them out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jefferson.
Jefferson?
That's fair.
Yeah, Senator appointed.
You've heard of John Valerio, man.
Yeah. That's who runs that area down there.
Many other councils on
we don't have much to do.
Yes. Yes. Or veterans, veterans.
I gotta get that phone.
Okay.
I think if you again, I know, we're gonna have to do
We
that
got the Washington Parish
at
Fair.
the next meeting.
Oh, yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah. Oh, you got to go.
You gotta go. You got a house about
Yeah, it was last year.
Oh, yeah, very much. My wife was there, but she's not very. Oh, yeah, well, she's nice, but she said, she won't tell you, no, you don't park here, you gotta go out. She'll wait till I get home. They're gone.
Anybody else would travel the
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you. You know, I came home one day from the fair.
Here you go.
There you go.
Harold, I came home one day from the fair.
That is
Big old limousine parking right in the middle of my driveway. Right in the middle of my driveway. And I sat out there waiting for
Yeah.
Popeye's wife. What's his name? Old Popeyes back in those days. Oh, I thought it was a street going through there. I said, with that ramp right
I
there.
can't pull it, I'm getting senile, I guess, I can't pull his name out.
Hey,
Look at that. Popeye, who he talking
Coach. No, that was,
about? Anyway,
yeah.
I got an idea who he talking about, I just can't jump, I just can't jump it.
Coach.
Coach.
You're close.
Yeah, coach.
They just got a request from the council to, their report to Washington to information office, so we put that through. There, you have a great council.
Oh, yeah. They do a good job. I go by every once in a while, and she says, you know, you don't have to come by here. Because they got a really good director. I said, okay, if you're never phone it, you need to call it.
Time is it?
About 7 after.
7 after. Give it
We give you 10 after.
10 after, give it 3 more minutes.
3 more.
Okay.
Yeah, I know if you don't show up the next time, one time you don't get paid.
You should be in 2 days early.
I never seen Cal Fade or something. I'll read that one again.
You shut the door at the time to start. I thought we were giving but no 2 more minutes till 10 after.
We'll give Noah 10 after. He's important.
Your ink will not run out. You'd be surprised, you put these on a table, and take these over and ink and then you clean it. That's your phone pencil.
Oh, you calling him?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
It's your phone pencil.
Hey, how are you? Okay, what's your location? This is Willie Lewis, executive. Yes, I'm upstairs. Okay, bye. You on the way up?
It's on his way up. Yeah. He was in the elevator.
They're right there. Here you go.
All the times you talked to him, he didn't recognize your voice.
Who is that?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll go make the right copies. The cabinet level thing.
Hello.
Copy back.
Yeah, I'm in a meeting, I'll be there in an hour and a half.
There comes the boss.
There you go.
Now we can start. Now we can start.
You see that lady on the end, she told me to call you. Got that black and white on it.
I recognize her.
No, the one over here to your right.
Okay.
Can you see it? That one.
All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order now since Noah's gotten here. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Willie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our invocation, Mr. Hewitt.
Okay. Our Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the members that came, and we thank you for their safe trip here, and we ask you to bless them on the way home, Father, and we ask you to forgive us of our sins, for we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Hey, they're all gone.
I just gotta correct when I'm gonna play copies.
Y'all can pull your, we mailed you a copy of this, but what they did, it was on both sides, and they only printed one side. So you can pull that out, and we're gonna make a corrected one.
Before we do the roll call, let me introduce, Leslie King. She's a new member just appointed from Jefferson Parish. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Speech.
I understand.
But she's not new to what we do, because she's been a part of a lot of the Atlanta and Lakota meetings and knows where we are and what we're doing.
Good to have you. Roll call.
Noah Aguilar. Present. Hugh Beverly.
Here.
Terry Corville.
Here.
Grace Garron. Mona Gober Craven.
Present.
Ann King.
Present.
Leslie King.
Present.
Willie Lewis.
Present.
Donald Mallett.
Present.
Harold Ritchie.
Here.
Rico Thomas.
Present.
Blanche Wilkes.
Present.
Worlita Williams. June Williams. Present.
Thank you. Next item, on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any objection? That passes. Executive Director's report.
That's me.
All right.
I mailed to each one of you, you should have reviewed it, some basic facts about, y'all had asked me to put together about the, and one of the great things I found out when I was researching this, I was telling, Mr. Ritchie, by 2025, the seniors will make up, in the voting population, 30%.
Wow.
If you count 50, it's over 40. So we can all see right off the bat, you know, our aging populations, we can decide elections here. And we just have to be organized and get everything together. And so also, I gave you that to review and give us some comments back before we present it. I also did a resolution that you can review the resolution. It was also sent to you asking the governor on behalf of the legal board to support a department. Also, I don't know if this will happen right away. One of the things we can ask, one of the things we need before anything is funding. We must have funding and an increase in funding to support these seniors that are growing. Also, I gave you a code of ethics, the new changes to the law. I gave you the law and everything that came with it. And you have to take an ethics every year. Our attorney, the next meeting, will be giving ethics training to each one of you, okay? So that we will be in compliance with that. You know, everybody says, well, I took the ethics training last year. We have to do it every year. And if you, for some reason, you do not come, you can take it online. If you want to take it online, you can also do that. And we can send you that information if it's easier for you to take it online. And then some of you may work in a governmental job where you have to take ethics already, and you have your certificate, and you can just submit that.
Well, there's two portions. You have the appointed folks, elected folks,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the employees. So
Right.
I think it's two different.
It's two, but it's still around the
Okay.
same. And she, like I said, she has been going to get certified and everything in that so that she can present it to you. Last year we had someone from the ethic board that came in and did the training, and we will again see if she can touch base with the ethic board. If they're busy and cannot, she will do it. Also, you'll find in your folders, I gave a breakdown of the constitutional amendments. It tells you a little bit about them, what they do. Didn't tell you how to vote, just tells you a little bit about exactly what they do. You can make your decision with those. We're in the process now of working on our budget for 2020 that we have to have in by November the 7th. We're going to ask for more EPS staff. That's where we're coming up short. We have, since it was moved back, we've saw an increase in the number of cases that we've had to deal with. And we was already short. We was already short supervisors. We was already short staff. We didn't have office space, office space was not returned. So we're going to put all those things in our budget. I'm not saying it's gonna get approved, but it will be put in the budget. Our next next board meeting, we will present the budget to you that we are turning into the budget office. They will not vote on the budget until April the 8th of 2019. So what we need to do now is talk about our resolution. You all have it there, if you don't mind looking at it. And see if there's any changes you'd like to make to this. Please, we're open to any changes, or we're open to accept the resolution and get a signature. I know you probably got it in the mail, you reviewed it, so you can let Mr. Ritchie know.
Karen, can you give us a little history on departments and?
Okay. I'm gonna just give you a little narrative of what happened. In 2015, one of our representatives put a bill in to create a Department of Aging. The bill passed, but you had to have a constitutional amendment also passed, which was presented to the people, and it failed. And so even though we have a law out there that says in our statute, it says that we are a department, we cannot become a department because they only have 21 departments. That's the only slots. They have 21 slots, and right now every slot is filled. So unless something is combined, or we go back out for another constitutional amendment, put back on the ballot for the people to vote for, that is the only way you can become a state department. The thing about it is, I will tell you this, if you're gonna ask somebody to combine, you better be looking around who you can go with. Because if you're willing to throw somebody else together, you have to be able to go with somebody for them to take you serious. And they know I've said this many times, and the only one right now that we would even fit into is veterans. And the reason they feel that they fit into veterans is because 40% of their staff that they serve are veterans. Because everybody.
40%.
Close to 40%.
Council served.
Right, I mean, they've been veterans, 1 year, 2 year, they went in, they have been members of the service. And some parishes have a lot more, some parishes have a lot less. And so you look at that, that's a good fit. But now they do other things. We also have 2 area agencies that serve veterans. They have grants to be able to serve the veterans. The veterans pays them to do the services. They're one of their caregivers. In other words, they can pick the Council on Aging, the area agency, to deliver the services. They buy services from Caddo, and I think it's one of them in Sinlaw, in the Sinlaw area. So they do have a history, and that's it. And so also you have to be able to know that can happen to you and be able to accept that. Because you can't say, I think you should put DHH and social services together if you're not gonna say, I'm willing to go with someone else. Now, we don't wanna go with DHH, let me just say that right off the bat. We're not willing for that, that's
Not a good fit at all.
no, we are not. We're more of a social model. And see, another reason they want a department, if I'm talking too fast, I'll try to slow down, is because every time, I hate to say this, but when Republicans seem to go in, it seems they want our money. And they want our money to be able to pull down more Medicaid dollars. Well, we're not a Medicaid agency. And we need our dollars to match to be able to pull these services down that delivers anyone. We deliver, you just have to be 60 plus. We do not care if what your income is, what your status in the community is. If there is a need there, we want to serve or try to serve. Now, we have waiting lists. Let me just say that right off the bat, so we can't do everything. But we do a lot. I mean, if you want a waiver, you're gonna be spending close to $40,000 to get a waiver. or that maybe that person didn't need 24-hour care. Maybe they just needed caregiver. They needed a meal. They needed someone to check on them. They need someone to telephone. They need someone to come in and give a little respite. You can do all those services for around $7,000, $8,000. That's a lot of difference there when you're looking at what we do. And you know, it's when the last administration was in, they said, we need to do more with less. We need to be more of a on the ground, work with the public. Our Councils on Aging is a model for that, okay? They are the model they go out and they can turn, for every dollar we give them, they put 4 in. They find 4, they fundraise 4. And so they do a lot with what little bit they get. And so, I think they're just wonderful, what can I say? And so they want a department, they want someone that they have a voice, that they recognize, and they don't have to fight this down at the legislature every time when a new administration comes in, that they gotta fight to be able to keep their dollars. And it's very disheartening when you have to remove, they pull all your money out, and you have to take everybody off of a service and disrupt their life. And when you're elderly, that's very hard on you to worry about, I'm not getting a meal, I'm not gonna get this, what is gonna happen to me, I'm gonna have to go in a nursing home. That's very disheartening to them. That is very, it's not healthy. And so what they're trying to do is relieve that, so that can't happen. They think that they have a department, and I believe if we have a department too, we'll have more of a voice. Do I think it's gonna happen this time? I'm gonna be honest with you, no. I don't. And I don't think it's because of the money situation we're in right now. But I do think we need to go after the money. Everyone else is going after the money. We need to make a stand and say, we need some funding. Questions?
Very good.
Rather than combining, should we be trying to do the constitutional amendment where we just increase the, what is it, 20?
21, we need to increase to 22.
22.
Which would be easier to accomplish? Which one of them?
The easiest to accomplish probably is to try to do a constitutional amendment. It's too late now, but you're not gonna do a constitutional amendment till next year. That's the quickest you can do it. And the bad thing about next year, then you fall into the election. So is it a good time during an election to have this constitutional amendment to make a department? I'm not a political animal. Tell us.
Well, you made the argument initially when you said the voting base
Yeah.
30 to 40%. And if a politician knows that base is out there, they're gonna try to go after that base. And with a department,
Right, you're right.
That might be a good time.
yeah, absolutely.
So we can change a resolution. We can change a resolution to say, support to put on the ballot for a constitutional amendment.
Cause the House bill already been passed, right?
Oh, yeah, it's passed. That's it. It's in the law. It's in the law that we are a department once a slot comes available. And this has happened to them before. Let me just say something. One time that they worked really hard. They were gonna be doing away with elections. And I don't know if y'all remember this, but they were doing away with the elections. So the Councils on Aging, they got out there, they got the support and everything, and then we go to the legislature and it became veterans like that. It was pulled out and they was like, oh, wait a minute, this has already been promised. And then when they started fighting that battle, then someone else came in. And I'm not saying veterans didn't deserve it, just like the aging deserve it, but they outmaneuvered us. So it has, this is what they've been dealing with almost 30 years they've been trying to get something done. They've been fighting this battle where trying to control their money, trying to keep their money, and trying to keep other people out of their money. Nothing is worse. If you're gonna go down to the legislature, nothing is worse than to walk down there when they're reading the budget and it comes up Office of Elderly Affairs, 0 across. All the way across. You were there. No money. No one told us. We had no idea until we showed up there that they had moved everything to DHH. Never once did they call this office and say, never once did they call this board and say, hey, this is what we're gonna do.
From your perspective, what do you think?
From politics?
Yes.
I think you pass it and you use bargaining chip.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we might not get anywhere with a resolution. Then they might say, hey, yeah, let's do a department, we're gonna bump it up to 22 and let them be there. If not, maybe they'll, wanna give us more money because we decided to be,
Right.
be
We
quiet.
decided to
one more
rattle
year.
the can a little
Yeah,
louder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem, he helped us draft this, their attorney, so I mean, you just tell us, get some markup, you tell us what you want us to change, what you'd like to see in this, and we will be happy to adjust. Because I want you to feel that this is yours, okay? Because the only way you're gonna be able to fight something and go and support something is you have to take ownership of it.
Yeah. And I don't know how the governor would feel. I haven't talked with the governor about it. I'd rather the board make whatever recommendation we wanna make, and then we just go fight the battle or whatever.
Any comments?
I wanna fight a battle, I'm gonna win.
Don't we all?
No, we are.
Well, part of the battle might be, well, we're not gonna get this, but maybe we can turn it into more dollars.
Right.
That would,
I
yeah.
don't, you know, I don't know.
Well, and what's, I mean, if we at least introduce this and get the thought in the mindset of some people, it might not work
That we're
this
serious,
year.
that you're serious and we have backing.
Yes, it might not work the first time, but if we are persistent and who else's support could we garner in the effort to do that? I was thinking when you said that there was the proposal of putting veterans and putting us in with veterans, but that didn't work, so.
Well, it never got off the ground, it was never brought,
So would we get the support of the veterans?
you would have to, and you're looking at a gentleman right there
I
that,
know that, I realize that, that's why I'm asking that question.
what is your, I mean, you've worked in this for many years, what do you feel, how this would work?
I feel, we could get, Secretary of Veterans Affairs George Strickland involved in it, and, he's a senior citizen now, and, I think it would go.
So that would add to our base of the 30 or 40%, whichever you take, that would add.
Mhm. And the other thing you have to, you can look at, if you move under the veterans, let's just say this, if you moved under veterans, it doesn't mean that you're under veterans, because a good example of this would be the Department of Corrections. Look at the Department of Corrections, they have the state police under them, that is, has a colonel that is separate over here, that has his own budget, has everything, but he's under a Department of Corrections, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Public safety.
Public safety, there are 3 branches, even though they're under that they do not, they have their own budgets, they have their own staff, they go before the legislature, they do everything like a standalone, they just have the support, because there's no more cabinet positions, under Department of Corrections.
That may be our best bet. I mean, being a senior is inevitable for us.
Right.
I'm a disabled veteran, and I can tell you, everybody's not a veteran, but everybody
Is a
becomes
senior.
senior, right?
We hope.
Yeah, so looking at it from that perspective, from the correction office, and then you have state police, etc., that may be a good move for us to be under veterans, and we probably would get more funding, etc., and we probably could share services, and already share services
We do.
to some degree.
We do, and it's the same thing you could say about social services, but let me tell you the problem with social services. When social services used to have, they had a lot of different money, they did a lot of social services, we could have fit under there, but they moved all those to DHH. The only thing left under Department of Children and Family Services, that's why they changed their name, is children, welfare, that's it, it's only children. So there's no more services that, housing and things, they moved it. There's nothing under there anymore except that, and that's the welfare and food stamps, that's it. Everything else, rehabilitation, all of that has been moved. And so, and we also place veterans when they, come back and, or they're 55 and they need a job, we place them through our Title V program, where that they go in and they're able to work in minimum wage for 6 months. We pay for it, and then we hope that they will offer them a permanent job. We do a lot of that through Walmart and through employers in the parish. But yes, sir.
Vietnam veterans got three, almost a million veterans in Louisiana, Vietnam veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the age of 70 above right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're the largest veterans group out there, not counting VFW and all that, because they got a lot of young guys. But I think if we petition them and they would adopt us under that.
And I think they've already done that in the Houma area, because they have a gentleman that is real involved down in the Houma area, and he did a resolution for them through that group down there. It's your call. Speak up.
What do the directors think?
That's what I said, speak up.
Surely you all discussed this. I love it.
Actually, let me just say this, I think they would rather have their own department, okay? And that is their first what they want. They want a standalone department.
We want a seat at the table, we want a seat at the table for almost 1 million people in Louisiana.
I'll say something. Last time when we put the department on the ballot to add a 22nd department, it was spoken about as it was adding government, adding more government, and also the way it was worded on the ballot, a lot of our seniors did not understand it. And where it was positioned on the ballot was also an issue. So all that comes into play.
Plus, we didn't have the governor's support at all.
No.
That's why it was stuck on number 11.
Well,
And all it has was to create a department, that's it, not for the
It didn't say
elderly.
what it was for.
It didn't even say,
They didn't.
It
And
was-
it was supposed to be number one, like I said, they had told them, they had did place cards for number one, and then what they did is they held off running for nursing homes, they held that off a whole year, put it nursing homes for the elderly as number one, and now all their work was in vain, because guess what those people voted for? They voted for number one that said elderly, because that's what they had been told. And so, so they have some, untrust, I guess you could say. Mistrust, yes, they have that.
Karen, let me ask,
Yes, sir.
placement within the Department of Veterans Affairs, how is that going to impact the receipt of funding that you need to be able to do it here?
It doesn't affect my federal funding, okay, because we're still, we still designated the state unit on aging, okay? Any of that can be done or undone. The governor could do that, okay? That's what we've always been scared about, okay? But it doesn't, veterans doesn't give us anything, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't, as far as funding.
What about a voice?
It will give us a larger voice because they show up also down at the, and there's more of them than there are more politically.
Savvy than we are.
Well, it's just, here's the thing, they're a little younger, some of them are a little younger, okay? Then our average age of the ones that we serve, the seniors that we serve, the average is 76. Now to get a 76 average, you can see what we're serving, okay? And so it's very hard, if you live in North Louisiana, to drive those 4 hours on a bus down to the Capitol to march. So it's just very hard. So when you have when you combine with someone else and you have a larger marching population, it's true. It's whoever's the loudest. You know that at the legislature. When those yellow shirts show up by 500, you run. Plus it's sad, but I mean, it's a very sad situation. Yeah. And so, you know, that plays a part in it also. But as far as what will they bring us, they will bring us more bodies to help to educate and advocate. But now I will say, let me just say something. I do think that this governor supports seniors. I haven't saw where he has not supported seniors. But also,
I know he supports veterans.
oh,
So if
absolutely.
we can get under their umbrella.
Well, you
Yes.
you don't have much of a choice where veterans are concerned. You've got the largest employer of
You
the
do.
military here in the state, so Fort Polk's gonna get whatever they want, and anybody that's a vet is gonna get it as well.
Exposure.
So, that's a no-brainer because of the money that the feds pump into there, the derivative comes out to all of you. So whatever they want, they're gonna get.
And there is, let me just say this right off the bat. If this is something we go that avenue, we would have to talk to the secretary of the department. Because if he is not willing, and that's not something he thinks we would fit in, then we'll be in worse shape than we are now.
What is there a con, there's pros with the voice and the numbers. What cons do you envision if this would come through?
The cons is this, priority is going to be who? Veterans. That's gonna be the priority. And what they're trying to get now is they wanna be number one. They want these seniors to be recognized as what they are. They're number one. They just took the back seat for many years. They've become number 2, number 3, number 4. And every legislature thing that they do down there, they're always thought of after you make a big stink. When you make a big stink, you march down there, then they say, oh, we better give them a little apple. We better throw them a little bit of crumbs. And they no longer want those crumbs.
Let me ask you this, if we opted to go for the resolution for a separate department, could we then ask the Department of Veterans Affairs to assist in promoting
Yes.
that new department?
Mhm.
Would that be unrealistic?
I don't think so.
And what do you think about that, Terry? Do you think that would be, a way that we could go to ask the Department of Veterans Affairs to support
Yes, I
the
mean,
elderly
I
in
think
having
what-
a separate department?
No, I think we ought to just go under veterans and I think the Secretary of Veterans Affairs was a good friend of mine. I think he would go for it. I mean,
But the directors are not really excited about that because they think they would be second-class citizens.
No.
Is that right?
no.
So it's like all or nothing, right?
Yeah, that's
All or nothing.
So, I mean, what is to lose by trying that this year?
trying to,
Going for the resolution to, doing the resolution to
Okay.
ask that there be a 22nd department.
22nd department. Now,
created
I don't think they're having a
as-
constitution, are they doing a constitution, they're not doing a constitution, conference, are they? They're not gonna do that. Yeah. So that's not gonna happen, so they can't do that. So then what you would have to do is, you would have to, get the legislature, this coming session, to put it back on the ballot. Correct? Yeah. To do a constitutional amendment, to put it back on the ballot.
That would take it till the following
To the
year.
fall, during the governor's election.
Yeah.
It would take it to the governor's election.
Yes.
That's probably your best bet, because that's gonna be your,
Everybody's coming.
If they're promoting it in their campaigning.
And if we were able to get the support of the Department of Veterans Affairs, that would add a little bit more fuel
and we do
to
have
our
it, we have it
cause.
in the, down in the Homa, that area, that group down there, they have given a letter of
That would
support.
give us more support for our cause.
And we
And
do
if
not-
that failed, then we could either opt for the other situation of go under veterans, or wait for the next constitutional term and try it again. But I think if we don't get out there and make our voices heard, right now, then nobody else understands. I mean, it'd
The
be.
fight, yeah.
We need to have, an advertising agency, if you will, create for us some slogans and some, talking points and.
It'd be nice to get money.
Well,
The
I mean,
governor was behind us, he could help with that.
Who?
The governor. Anything you wanna push for it.
But, you know, if we word it very clearly, like you all were saying, the last time around it kinda got shoved to the bottom with inappropriate wordage. And wordsmithing is everything.
It is.
So, if we got behind that cause, with assistance from the directors of the agencies, and if Terry was able to garner some support through the Department of Veterans Affairs, it's worth a try, isn't it?
Anything's worth a try.
I think it's a good idea. I personally, of course, haven't been here in a while, but I believe, 2015 is when, we were really pushing it. The longer another year goes by and another year goes by, there are these people that then you've really,
Forget
you've got
about it.
to bring it back, not that you don't now, but it's something more important has gotten on their agenda. I just think it needs to be out there if that's what we're still wanting, which I think, have always thought that's what we needed.
Particularly with the large turnover
Right.
after this next year, I think that it should be pushed right now.
I would.
Yeah, 50% of your,
Okay,
of your House and your Senate is changing.
Right.
So does this resolution take care of our attorney is gone, but does this resolution take care of all the things we've talked about from a legal standpoint? If so, I make a motion that this board adopt this resolution.
I second.
I have a question before we. So this resolution will allow us to become another department?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, what it does is, what doesn't allow us is
I mean,
asking to
exactly, yeah.
support that, yeah.
Putting it up front.
Yeah,
Right.
we're already saying that, I mean, you can go back and look in all the statutes, since this office was first created, we were created to handle all aging issues in this state. 46-935 says you will handle all, aging issues. What has happened is, it is slowly being taken away. We used to do the waivers, okay? And done great, and it was cheap when we did them, okay? I mean, we were reasonable, I don't wanna say cheap, I'm sorry, y'all. We were reasonable. All of a sudden, they take the waivers away from us. We used to have so many in every parish, okay? So let's take in Vernon Parish, we had 7. So we knew that 7 people in Vernon Parish was gonna have a waiver, and it was gonna turn over, and then the next 7, the next 7, the next 7. Then they came along, they said, no, we're gonna take it away from the councils on aging, we're gonna put all the slots in a pot, and we're gonna pull them out as they become available. Well, if you have the largest population, guess who lost? Your rural areas lost. So you know, the councils on aging could no longer do them, they could not keep a care manager on staff. If you only saw a slot come to you every 10 years, would you keep paying someone? No, it's not even. So that was another thing that they had to make money, to be able to keep their services, help their services, that was taken away. So it's slowly, in 2005, they created 4141, they created a statute that said that DHH, they created a Department of Aging. Well, the law said that should have never been happened, because anything that has aging or does with aging has to be done in this office. Anything after 1995 that has to do with services to the elderly has to be moved to this office. That did not happen. And so, so that is where they're at. I mean, I'm just, if I say something wrong, just tell me.
You're good, you're on the road.
I think if we're going to present this resolution now, the discussion with the Secretary of Veterans Affairs should be done immediately, perhaps with Terry and with our board president, so that if we want their support, we don't wait until later. If this is going to be presented now, that conversation needs to be had now, especially with the Secretary understanding that despite all the services from your department, 40% of the veterans are still being served.
Not 40% of the veterans, 40% of
I'm sorry,
seniors.
40% of your population is being served, are veterans, right?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, let's say we serve 125,000 people through the pharmacy, through this stuff.
Right.
40% of those or have some association with the veterans.
Right, so that's an important piece of information, it really is.
That's a lot.
Well, he
Yes.
doesn't need to be blindsided.
Yes,
No,
and they don't
no.
need to be blindsided.
I can call him after the meeting and maybe set up a meeting.
Right.
I think
Right.
before this is ever given to the governor, I think you need those letters behind it.
Yes.
I think you need any support you're gonna get, whoever it may be, that you need that to go with it. That's just my thing.
Karen,
I agree.
can you type up a letter?
I can.
And, I'm the Louisiana State Council President, Vietnam Veterans,
Uh-huh.
and I'll sign it. And request him to, Secretary of Veterans Affairs, George Strickland.
Good.
I'll type up a letter for you. I'll get your exact title and everything. And I'll type up another letter that you can take to him for his signature. How's that?
Yes.
Are
If
there any
there's
other-
no other discussion, I'm calling a question.
And I don't object to that, but I wanna make sure when we pass this, it's not immediately going
No, I
to the
wouldn't.
governor
I
until we
would not,
make these other contacts.
No.
Is that-
okay.
Is that where
listen
we
to me.
are?
Yeah. I would sign it now, and I would put in the minutes to hold to the next meeting, to review your your letter, because there's no date on the letter, and I'm only saying sign it now because we've got a quorum.
Good idea.
But, and then as we meet our next meeting, we bring our support letters, whether we get, so maybe we can get someone support, and we put those support, they can all work with their parish councils,
Lakota too.
Lakota, the different organizations, parish councils in every area, we deal with them, and bring those, letters with this recommendation.
Are there any other departments that would be supportive of this idea?
I don't know, because we don't wanna go with them. I know what you mean.
They may not want,
Mhm.
we don't
Do
wanna
I
go
think
with
I can
them.
get,
Right.
do I think I can get DHH? No,
No.
they won't. Do I think social services? I would have to talk to, Dr. Adrian, Wilson to see, because he used to be over there. He may have and we don't know, I don't know how he feels either, I haven't spoken to
He
him.
seemed very supportive because we talked to him at the Atlanta conference and he was very
Yes.
supportive.
So, and I think that he would, go with it, but we'll have to talk to him also.
All right, there's a motion and a second, and usually I just try to roll through it without voting, but let's vote on this. I think everybody would like to have their name attached. And if you'll call the roll.
Noah Aguilar,
Here.
Yes.
Jimmy Beverly,
Yes.
Terry Corbell,
Yes.
Mona Gober Cravens.
Yes.
Ann Keene,
Yes.
Leslie Keene,
Yes.
Willie Lewis,
Yes.
Donald Mallett,
Yes.
Harold Ritchie,
Yes.
Rico Thomas,
Yes.
Blanche Wilkes,
Yes.
and Jim Williams.
Yes.
Got that going?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going.
Let's see, any other old business? New business, Lakota.
Becky Badger, y'all probably remember, I'm president of Lakota, only for a few more days. Our Lakota conference is actually starting tomorrow. I think, didn't, Michelle put this in the mail for y'all? If not, I'll pass it out. We have a conference in West Monroe at the Holiday Garden Inn, starting tomorrow, and the workshops are on the registration as well. And we are also gonna pass it at our business meeting to support this resolution and have that as attached as a Directors Association throughout the state. So it's sponsored by People's Health. Miss Leslie Keene is gonna be there as well. And we're gonna have training from GOEA as far as taxonomy and unit cost training as well. So anyone is welcome. I know it's a far distance, but there's some of y'all that's in that area to start off with, so please, we're passing out the agenda. And we support what y'all fixing to, we're gonna work with y'all on that, cause we think that's what we need to do. Any questions? Thank y'all.
Thank you. LANA?
Actually, I'm also the current president of LANA. Unlike Becky, I still have another term. So thank y'all for inviting us here today. We actually just finished off the 2018 conference in Lafayette at the end of September. We did have over 100 in attendance, including vendors, sponsors, as well as registrants and speakers. We actually surpassed our goal for sponsorship as well as vendors, so we're excited about that. We did include this year, as well as the last 2 years, the continuing education unit. We really want to bring in the outside entities, not just the councils on aging, which have been a terrific support, but those others that are serving the aging population, because they're in need of the education services that are provided for them as well as outside. And they need to learn about the services that the councils on aging provide. So it's a great voice to bring outside entities together. So really excited about that. We've voted on actually 3 conference locations for next year that we'll be researching. So one is Shreveport, one is to return it back to Lake Charles where it was in 2017, and then one is in the capital area. It has been brought to the attention that if we hosted it in the capital area, that we'll likely, on an annual basis, that we'll likely get a lot more support attendance since people are used to traveling here the year round. So we're really excited also about, we have rebranded LANA in hopes to, extend again that arm to those outside the councils on aging. So this is our new logo, and kind of our look for our coloring is purple. I'm kind of on the marketing side, so I'm really excited about this. And we do have a website now. It's Louisiana-aging.net. So we hope that you visit it. It'll give you the conference updates as well as some pictures from the conference and our vendors. So again, thank you for having us, and I'll be happy to answer any questions after.
When is the next meeting? You don't have a date set?
We don't. We usually do it in the fall of 2019. I mean, in the fall of each year. So September, October has been also brought up, as well as maybe waiting to this spring as well. So some other options, but typically it's been in the fall for 2019. But I'll ask, once we have to save the date and the conference location, I'll give that to Karen and her group to send out as well.
When is Lakota's next meeting? Not this week, but is it, do y'all have quarterly meetings?
We meet 3 times a year. It'll probably be April. We usually here in Baton Rouge during the legislative session, so we can be at the Capitol, and a lot of the directors go. And then we have Senior Day at the Capitol that's usually combined to the conference where we have all the seniors come.
We have the breakfast for the day.
And then we have a breakfast for the legislative of the year.
Okay, thank you.
That'll be in April.
Thank you.
Any comments from our guests?
About members.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I bring greetings again across the river after you cross over the Intercoastal Canal to the town of White Castle. We attach to you all. From my parish president to the director, I work very closely at heart. A mother that was served with honor with you all group, Council on Aging in our neighborhood. I come to let you know I love the movement. Its numbers make a difference. On November 6th, for the town of White Castle, I will be elected for 6th term, and Council on Aging stays within my heart. It's numbers that gonna make a difference for this resolution. I'm attached with many of people, diverse, fight hard, we go winning. My slogan for you all, one house for our elderly. God bless you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Howard Rogers from the New Orleans Council on Aging. And Karen, it's great to see a quorum here at the legal board. And I'm just being, I guess you could say a little funny, but it's great to be here. I haven't been able to get here because of some medical issues in the last couple of years. But two things. One, we're going to be hosting, and everybody here is invited, 2 national conferences next year. The first is going to be the Americas Association on Aging, which will be in New Orleans. I think April the 14th or 15th. It's going to be at the Hyatt Regency. Half the people in here are on the planning committee. If they don't know it yet, I'll put your name down anyway. And then we're also going to be hosting the N4A, the National Area Agency on Aging, and that's going to be July the 28th through August the 1st, and that's going to be at the Hilton Hotel. So we're going to be getting more information out to everyone. Hopefully that you can come down. We have some things, some exciting things that's going to happen. And I'm also going to ask for all of your help and your support, because on this Thursday, the New Orleans City Council is to vote on putting a tax village on the ballot in March of 2019 for the New Orleans Council on Aging, which will be the first time that we will be able to have, we hope, a permanent funding source. So thank you, and I hope to support the move of the State Department of the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs.
Thank you, Howard. We do well with having members here when we in Baton Rouge. We don't travel well. Anyone else from guests? Comments from members?
If you all would look at the bylaws that were given to you. And I'd like some discussion from our board members as to what role we see ourselves with regard to our service on this board. Do we see ourselves as political appointees that have a title behind our name? Do we see ourselves as people engaged in helping others? Do we see ourselves as servant leaders? How do you view your position on this board? And what do you want to see accomplished? And I'm asking that question because we have had, as has been referred to in this room this morning, we have had a terrible time coming up with quorums. And there has to be a better way for us to go about this. And so, with that in mind, how do you feel about your service here? How important is it to you? Where do we need to go? How can we do a better job of that? And Harold just alluded to one thing that unfortunately may be our answer. But even, Harold said we have to do a better job of having people here when it's in Baton Rouge. And that may be our answer, but that really does limit us in other things that we do, because if we go to the site of the Atlanta meeting, or if we go to the site of the Lakota meeting, or should we go to New Orleans to the meeting there? We see other people, we're exposed to other opportunities. If we go to Atlanta and Lakota and go to any of their workshops, it's gonna make us a better person and a better servant. So I guess I'd like, Carol, you to facilitate a little discussion here about how on earth are we going to get quorums? And if you look at this information, if you'll go to page 5, there's a point on there in section 4 about absenteeism. Somewhere along the line, I think that we need to start keeping a detailed record of who doesn't show up. And June and I Karen and I have had, sorry June, Karen and I have had a discussion in the past about, in my opinion, and asking others who do Robert's Rules of Order, we need to, even if we know we aren't gonna have a quorum, we need to call a meeting, have our meeting, gather, open the meeting, do the pledges, call for a roll call, and at that point you determine that we don't have a quorum. But then you have a legal record of that absence, and you have a way of keeping up with it. And Karen has advised me that that doesn't work with governmental agencies, so I'm accepting of that. But I still feel like we need to have a way to say, whatever record maybe Michelle would keep it of people who say, I can't come and what my reason is, and have some records, back it up. Because on page 5, under absenteeism, it says, any member who misses 2 consecutive regular meetings of the board without just cause, that the board can declare the position vacant.
Well, they must have changed that because it used to be 3 meetings, and then the person was kicked off the board.
You have your bylaws in front of you right there?
Yeah, but
Look on page 5.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it used to be 3 meetings
That
and
could
you were
be,
off the
but
board.
this is what
You
we're
remember
operating
that,
on
don't
today,
you?
is that not right?
That's correct. The bylaws is 2, but let me also tell you what happens is that we need to take this into consideration. When you kick someone off, if, let's say they're a Senate appointee, it's not the Senate that appoints them at that time. It goes to the governor. The governor appoints them and to complete that person's term. So, let's say.
That gets to be a problem.
Yes, let's say we have someone in there that is not favorable to the Office of Elderly Affairs, which we just got through. Okay, if they load that board, then you become unoperable as a board.
So there's
well, and I know these huge salaries too that you have, so, but, that we pay. That doesn't seem to work. I think we got a great group here. I feel like this meeting, we did something. I feel like we had great discussion, we talked about what's going on, and I think that's what we need more of. People have to feel connected. When they come to any kind of meeting, they want to feel they're making a difference and they have a connection to this organization. And they're just not coming up here because it is expected of them. And I think that we're seeing that now. We're seeing more of that, and I think we're going to see a difference in the attendees and coming. That's just what I think. And that and a dime will get you nothing.
Well, my dime, how many times have we not had a quorum? I know the 2 that we scheduled other places, you know.
Oh, I mean,
But I was, you know.
I can't tell you right off the, I mean, it's been, more than one, more than 2. But I can't tell you exactly.
Yeah.
But, and then we may have to look at the bylaws. Maybe, I don't know, it may be in the law that you have to have quarterly meetings. Maybe it's a law.
in the bylaws.
But is it in the law? Bylaws you can change.
Yeah.
Law, you gotta have a representative.
It says the board shall meet at least 1 time per quarter of the fiscal year, and that's on page 6 at the bottom.
So I'd have to see.
And as often thereafter as deemed necessary by the chairman.
And that's, what I'm saying is this, maybe, I have to see if it's in the law. If it's in the law, we'd have to get it changed in the law. But if it's not in the law and it's only in the bylaws, maybe we need to look at having it, every 3 times a year instead of 4 times a year. Because a quarter comes up pretty fast. you know what I'm saying? So, but if it's in the law, you have to do it
If
quarterly.
in the water comes up.
I don't either.
I don't think a quarter.
Really? I think it comes up fast.
I guess because you're doing the reports.
Quarter's a half a year. Yeah.
Okay, so that took care of that answer. So I just think that, I don't know, I just, what is it? We're talking, what do y'all, how do y'all feel?
Tell me what just cause is.
That was what I was wondering. Who's gonna decide who's got a just cause?
Well,
Who's got a good reason?
yeah, well, that's broad. I mean, that's just, you,
Yeah.
you have doctor's, you get a certain age and you have doctor's appointments, you have things that you, I mean, that is,
Yeah,
I'm in
and
agreement.
some doctors now, if you cannot make that appointment, then you've gotta wait 3 months before you get back in.
Yeah.
And then there's some of us, myself included, that had a vehicle and now do not have a vehicle, that, you know, twice I was coming and got on the side of the road for a while. I don't know as far as just cause, what you would say. I think that, you know, if the majority wants something put down, then that's something we need to look at. But I think, I've been on this board, God, for years. You're either, as Karen, I think, has said, maybe not today, but some other days, you either want to be here. This is not something, as I say, that's gonna pad a resume. That's not your reason for being here, or it's gonna help you get on some board. As far as what you were saying, I don't look at it as political. I know that you have to a certain extent, maybe be political. I personally have always looked at this as a representative of the elderly in the state of Louisiana. I feel like I represent the elderly in any state in the United States. When I came to this board, it was because I was interested in knowing what was going on and what help the elderly is getting. That's how I see, you know, my role. And where I'm from, people know who I am and what I'm doing, and I've received a lot of calls, and I've received calls from people that I know across the state. What do I need to do for mama? You know, that's what I see. And trying to make sure that whatever the councils are doing, which I believe they are doing great things, it needs, as far as the political, the word, I've always said, has to be out. You know, and I talk up, I'll say, the councils any chance I get, doesn't matter where I am or if the conversation, you know, turns that way. That's just my perspective. You know, I love the elderly. I've worked with the elderly for them for most of my nursing career. So, but yes, you need to make meetings. I'll be the first to say that. But sometimes it's very hard to get to the meetings.
Well, yeah, I have a meeting at the, Capitol.
Yeah, you gotta go. You can't be tardy for that.
We usually, you know, 45 minutes. But,
This type of stuff has to be with DNA.
yeah, it does. Oh, absolutely.
And the bottom line is service.
Bottom line.
Exactly.
If it's in your DNA to help others, service is the bottom line. I represent all the folks in the state and the nation who receive Social Security. And I'm getting hit across the head every day. But it's about service being in your DNA and helping others. And if you don't have it, this is probably not a forum for you.
And you're not gonna attend the meetings. You're gonna find, you know, let's be realistic. Anybody here could find a good reason any day, anytime not to be here. Now, do you wanna be here? End of conversation.
That's it.
I just have one other thing to say. I think that as a chairman and your reputation as a great mediator, you probably need to meet with the governor before this gets sent to him. Yeah, that's just
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Great
Because we do not want to backside him or any of this, that's not fair,
No.
and I'm sorry I have to go.
Do you affect our next meeting date?
Ma'am?
Do you affect our next meeting date? Do you
No,
need
no,
to
no,
tell
no,
us that
no.
in advance?
You tell me when it is, and then I get rid of everything else.
And you get rid of everything.
Except I couldn't get rid of this, because I have a meeting at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
With these people?
All right. Next meeting date.
When? Should be in December, shouldn't it? Am I right, wrong?
No. We should
January,
have
February, March,
Cause
January,
this is the
then.
fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, when's this meeting normally? January?
September.
No, no.
This one today. The one today normally would have been in September.
Yeah.
Right, we missed the September.
Yes.
Okay, so when should we have the next
Real
one?
close to having a quorum, but didn't quite get it.
So when should we have the next one?
If you're going by quarters, it would be December.
It would be December if you go by quarters.
All right,
Well, let's try to stay on track.
Yeah.
December then.
I'm waiting on you to give me a date.
Give us a date.
He's got his,
Any day
he's got his
except-
week ready.
any
Do we
day
need-
Except Friday.
Do we normally meet on
Give us a date.
Tuesdays? Is that our normal day?
Normally y'all do meet on Tuesdays.
Yes.
I
So-
believe it interferes, if we change that, it interferes with your, other meetings, with Rotary or something.
So,
I got another meeting.
in December,
Maybe?
we have the
Tuesday.
4th, the 11th, the 18th.
I would suggest not getting too close to Christmas.
Earlier would be fine.
11? Yeah, 4.
The 11th.
11?
Yeah, I'd say the 11th.
Is that all right with you?
Okay.
Yes, fine with me.
Okay, would y'all look at your calendar? I'm sorry, I'm usurping you.
No, you go ahead, because I don't care as long as you don't put it on Friday. I'm
Who
like,
has a
to work.
calendar, who has their calendar?
You still
Can you-
working?
Can you?
Yeah, but I'm trying to get fired.
I'm not gonna get fired.
Sound like me.
Has anybody got a conflict on the 11th?
That's on Monday
I would know.
Wouldn't know, but
because it goes.
Well, if you put us on there first, if you put this on there first, can you, bump anything else? Terry, does that give you time to talk to Joey?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Joey and see.
Is that a Tuesday? Or
It's
a
Tuesday.
December
wait.
the 11th on a Tuesday, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just calendars to make sure.
So Tuesday, December the 11th, what's that look like?
10 o'clock, say?
yeah.
Okay. You will continue to get hard copy mail, email, phone call, and phone call, and phone call. That works?
Fine.
Obviously it works.
We're here.
That's perfect.
We're here.
At 10 o'clock?
I'm here.
Is that what we do?
And I do have a record for when I call and when I talk to people that can't make it or can make it. I do keep a record of that.
So, I wanna share with y'all something. When I pulled up that date, I realized that I'd written myself a note for our September board meeting that said I wanted to ask, how do you view yourself? Are you an employee of this board? Are you an appointee, and you don't care whether you have a commitment? Or are you a volunteer / servant leader? And I didn't even realize I'd put that in there, but I had earlier put it in my, on that, save that date, cause I knew I wanted in September to ask the question that I did today. Because I think that we all, like you said, it's in your DNA. And if you're not a servant leader, you don't need to be on here regardless of whether you're appointed to be or not. And that's kind of how I feel when I do not claim expenses for this meeting, because I think it's my responsibility to serve my community And so I absorb the cost of my travel, my meals, my accommodations, whatever it is, when I participate on this board. Anyway, soapbox is over. Sorry about that.
All right, and do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
No objection, we adjourn. All right.
Okay, before y'all leave, the umbrellas in the corner are for the LEBA members. That is to help advertise our Medicare Improvements for Patients and Providers Act money, our outreach and education. There's a nice little logo on one of the corners with a phone number. So it is open enrollment, Medicare. Do the checkup, make sure you call Senior X if you're on Medicare to make sure your plan is working for you. Or call me and I'll hook you up.
That's the Medicare, prescription?
Yes, open enrollment for Medicare prescription, coverage started on Monday.
Yep.
Through December 7th.
Anything else umbrella I did not get from you already? I think I already.
Doing our business.
Now,
And
do I
lastly,
need to sign all of
we'll
it?
take your stuff.
Don't forget to do that.
She's our, huh? You're already being paid. Well, in order for you to get travel reimbursement for LEBA travel, so you're not gonna do it, you just mark through it and put on there that you're not gonna do it. So,
You'll still get, I'll go ahead and know you're gonna get whenever you get away, but.
That's okay.
and we're not saying that don't get reimbursed, but that's just in case.
I am going up.
The way to pay, yes, we do. That has to be done in the system, the electronic things, so that's just how we get it, bring everybody into the system. You are all right.
Yeah.
So you think they're gonna try to meet you? Okay, Mr. Wilson, I'm
Glad
gonna
to have you, seeing
don't
y'all.
leave yet, I'm gonna cut you some cake, so you can take some home. Platter might be a little. You come for that cake. My daughter was upset last night because I made the donations. Did you make some? So I made her a little.
February 15th.
I'll be right by the track.
I am sorry. I am down here for a doctor's appointment this afternoon. Won't be through till late, so I don't know if I'm gonna make it up there tomorrow morning. I will be.
And I'm sure we're gonna have Joey.
I understand he's 51%.
How you doing?
Joey, you be there?
You know, he is, I hear
Hey,
around.
good to see you again.
We bonded, he saved my German Shepherd puppy when he was like.
Here.
And so,
Everybody can use an umbrella.
Ralph told me, and I used to take, we're farmers, and I used to take the dog in. And when he told me he was going to Mexico, I'm like, where am I gonna take my dog? He said, bring your dog, I don't care where I am. So when he moved to Mangum, I said, all right.
Okay, be the
I
same.
said, I'm gonna bring Amos Moses to see if I get it tight. Sure enough, he got the snake bit. 3 weeks. I pulled up in the back and I went in the back door. And I did right now, Amos Moses. Hey there, and so,
Well, I've been in the agency since '73, I ran my Tiger Green
all the guys out there.
Meals on wheels.
Go get Amos
Yeah, I
Moses.
did that for 10 years.
But yeah.
I knew you would know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And,
How are you doing today?
I'm sure
Good
that
to see you. You're always so dressed sharp. Hey, that's all right. We're all here for the same purpose.
And that'll be here in Baton Rouge.
yes, sir.
What you been cooking lately?
Well, we had,
And that'll
I'm
be,
glad you enjoyed it.
have this.
a nice
it's great to
salad.
see you.
And you have some kind of information
And I wanted to
on that.
I'll
Okay.
continue to hold on.
Yeah,
You know, strange things can happen.
you don't have my email, just get it to Michelle, and
I know it when I get here and I go
on that. right, sounds good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good to see you. I hope I didn't step on, I know I didn't step on y'all's toes. I hope I didn't.
No, I haven't got it. Bring it to me.
Yeah, and you gave me one too, no, thank you.
No problem.
All right, Chad.
I'd already told her that. Excuse me.
Ma'am, you got your umbrella? You need one?
I'll get one when I go over there.
Then when it does come up, well, you know, I know so-and-so,
Yeah.
and then it starts, boom. and
Thank you
comes to
so
be-
much.
See you in December.
Oh,
It'll be here before we can turn around good, won't it?
I know.
Leslie, you signing this?
I'm gonna be on
We're
time.
going to a military ball with Eagles tomorrow.
Leslie, thanks for serving on this board.
Oh, I'm honored to be here.
I know you're
Really.
honored, I know you, it's very conducive to everything else you do in life, but it nevertheless is one more thing to
All right,
do.
sweetie. We'll see you later.
Well,
Colin,
you know, I started out
Thank you,
here.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
probably
And
mid-November,
I'll
towards the
enjoy
end of November, I'll start the call
Oh,
I was just finishing up college.
so thank y'all for
So
those.
should have been, at Children's Hospital Development Office, and somebody just came up to me and said, you should apply. So I stayed in fundraising, because I need to work, and I enjoyed it.
Are you a certified fundraising executive?
I'm not, I thought about it until I met a board member, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society was the last, not-for-profit organization I worked for. And, I met a wonderful gentleman on the board, and he pulled me over and said, I have a position for you. And, I said, well, you know, this is the reason why I do it, I gotta work, but he goes, well, I said, I enjoy giving back to the community, and I said, well, that's what we want you to do for us.
Yeah.
And so that's how I fell into where I am now, and so
Well-
this helps me, my other.
It helps get that other side. You have your monetary that you have to do things, but this is the other side, the give back.
I have been on the Louisiana 4-H Foundation Board of Directors since the 1980s. We have term limits. I wrote the Constitution and bylaws, and so, it's near and dear, but I go off of the board for the requisite period of time, but I am appointed to chair a committee, which keeps me back, and so then when they don't have somebody to fill the northeast slot, I go back, But that being said, I'm encouraging our executive director, Patrick Tuck, to get the certification. So I was just wondering if you were.
I didn't think they would hire me, but I thought they would hurry up and hire that extra man they've been talking about for the last year.
I'm not gonna do that, that
And
takes
they
out
have
our
hired
process.
somebody. So this
With those positions.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday should be my last weekend to work.
Well, I
So
really
I
hope
would
it's not
recommend
in my family that you have to work for.
Yeah, I've been
To get
involved,
outside the box.
I
I've been
understand.
involved with the national.
Is that
I
the
love you dearly,
original, do I need to
but
sign
one
that?
slip is
Yeah,
yours
so you
to
know.
sign, and here's a blue.
Well, thank you so much. It was,
Bye,
it was a
Leslie.
pleasure.
Good to see you.
You have
See
my
you in
email, you
December.
have my phone number, if you need anything, call me, email me, text me.
Well, I'm about to head up to Lakota, so
Be
let me know
careful.
if you need anything from me.
I am gonna be at DD Council later this week, I have that tomorrow and Thursday, so I'll be in and out, but I have it on my phone if you need anything.
Okay.
I'm gonna be in Baltimore for a 4-H function in
Fun.
Washington, so that's why I'm not coming to, the meeting in West Monroe, but I really do think it's
Could I
important
put
for
Digger
us as
in
board
parentheses
members to
so
go
we
to
know
those
who that
meetings.
is?
I agree. It's
You are
nice
so
to
bad.
hear them share best practices
Okay.
and the needs that aren't
So
being
what's
met.
Bill and Summer doing
Just working,
Thank you.
all that stuff, same old stuff.
That's how we all do.
Mhm.
We're doing a family reunion gathering something, or I'm the spoon, okay, I'm stirring the
Stirring the pot.
Oh,
Everybody keeps saying we need to get together, and every time there's a funeral, everybody's together, but we need to get together when it's not a funeral. So I said, okay, I'm gonna stir the pot. So I called Lisa. I said, Lisa, we're having it at your house, because she kept offering. My cousin lives on the river. You know where she lives.
Mhm.
Then she bailed on me last week. She says, well, Shelby's having surgery, and I'm afraid because she's 30, she's getting older, and she's having tonsillectomy. I'm like, just make sure she's got Jello. You good? So we moved it to Mama's, so I had to take a day off to go to Mama's, because Shemaine and I don't want Mama to be stressed and have to do everything.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm gonna.
No, we're all doing good, we're all still having birthdays, it seems like
Yeah, I ain't pushing up daisies, so you're doing
every
good.
week we have a birthday party at the house for kids or grandkids or whatever, sometimes we even have two.
But on the 27th,
Two for
on
one
the
time.
27th, the last weekend of the month, we'll be at Mama's. If you and Miss Patsy wanna ride by, there'll be plenty of the youngs around, cause it's the young reunion. And, I'm
Do you
cooking.
think that the people that needed to hear what I said heard it?
No, probably not.
Well,
Probably
and
not. Oh, it's important to go to meetings, don't you know that?
And Noah is the other one. Is he gonna resign? He had said he was going to.
He said he would, but didn't wanna go. I asked him how he's doing. He says, I feel great. So but you know what? At least he comes. He comes
Well,
for
I
me.
mean, he had in the last 2 or 3. He was part of the, we didn't have a quorum.
Yeah.
Because he didn't
Well, he
have,
wasn't gonna
he
go
didn't
like
have a
that.
driver.
He wasn't gonna like yet.
He didn't
too
have
far
a,
away.
he didn't have a, well, if you're
Now,
not able to participate.
The one that, not Grace Garrell, the other one. What was her name?
Williams.
Yeah. She works with the school system.
Yes.
And they're on fall break, and when I called her, she actually called me back and she left a message and said, she says,
Willetta Williams.
yeah. She says, she says, if I need to resign, she says, I'll resign. I'm thinking, okay, you've only missed a few. We have others that haven't been at all. But she says, I had this voucher. She says, I'm a fall break. She says, and it has been crazy. And she said, I had to use it or lose it. She says, so we scheduled it, and she didn't know that this meeting had been rescheduled. The September meeting had been rescheduled. And that's understandable because she planned on coming to the September meeting, and she was one of the ones that was coming. And then it gets rescheduled a month later, and she's already got plans to go on a cruise.
That's just cause.
That's kind of,
That's just cause.
and that's where when the question was asked, just cause, what are you gonna define as just cause? That's very, very hard to do, defining it as a board.
But the other thing is.
Work related Rico missed because he had his boss in town.
I agree that it's hard to define, but my message was.
But just because you don't have a
Just
car.
because you have a hangnail.
Or, we rented a car, we paid for rental for her to come to.
That's ridiculous.
Well, she didn't have a car. She sold her car before she went to Vietnam.
And how does she get to the grocery store?
She was on her daughter. She stayed on her daughter.
Where does she live?
Well, I'm glad that you decided you were going to be on it, and.
I'm sorry, we were having an impromptu meeting in the bathroom.
Oh, in the bathroom, that's a wonderful place to have a meeting.
That's the big
When I got the receptionist to make copies, some of them got copies on Saturday, some of them didn't.
Oh, okay, you're all right. Your cake was very good.
Copy, because some of them
Very
were.
good meeting today. Very good. And I thought the meeting was good, but your cake was very
Helps when
good.
people are there. Thank you. I made it at 10 o'clock last night.
I'll be the judge of that.
Do you
Well,
know
go ahead,
Danielle
be
is
the judge
still
of that.
here?
Huh?
Danielle.
Danielle is most
Launch,
likely.
you're feeling okay?
She's in her
Yeah.
office. Y'all
Y'all
do
need
know
to hear
she's having
Blanche.
twin boys, by the way. Y'all do know this?
Oh, bless her heart.
Danielle turned 44 and right before her 44th birthday, found out she was expecting twins, and she just found out it was boys.
Oh, wow.
I'd rather have boys than girls.
Babies 5 and 6.
Thank you very much. You can spank them boys, you
Y'all
gotta
need
talk
to-
to the girls.
Yeah.
Y'all need to
Well,
hear
You
her
telling me
first
she's got 6 kids? We'll have 6
She
kids?
will have 6. She has
That little
20, 17, 12, 6, and now twin boys.
Holy moly.
I would cry.
I would just say,
And we told her, you better do something about that because you're still young. You're 44. You're still young. You can still.
Yeah.
You better do something about that.
I have a sister 18 years older
Get
than
away from
me,
me.
and we never lived in the same house. I was born August 11th, 1949. She married August the 4th, 1948.
Okay.
And then I have a sister 10 years older than me, and I'm the baby.
Oh wow.
That explains why you're such a brat.
Right.
I had 3 brothers, and believe me, there was no hope for me.
The one that's 10 years older than
I
me,
would cry, but
graduated from high school, and I finished the 2nd grade. And then she went to college.
50 and babies.
I was home.
How are you going to the grocery store if you don't have a car?
I used my daughter or my granddaughters.
Are you not gonna get one?
No, I probably will eventually, but I'm kind of waiting to see.
What is your problem? I have 2, I'll loan you one of mine.
No. I just have some other things that I wanna do, and I gave my car, I spent 3,000, well, I know, but you find out.
Take the wheels away
I spent
from me.
$3,000 on my
not
car
handicapped.
to get it repaired. And about 2 weeks after I spent that $3,000 to Nissan, was sitting on the side of the road.
Oh, please.
So they got it there.
I have never seen a U-Haul trailer behind a hearse. Now, he may have one.
Oh, yes, you do. I have. My brother
I've
sent me a
actually seen
picture.
it. You have to
seen
spend
it?
it.
Now,
I
what I'm
haven't
saying,
seen
listen,
that.
that
Yeah, that's
car
a
broke
good job
down
you got
on
before
me
you
here
bury it.
one time, at the Prairieville exit.
Yeah.
And we
I'll
had
lose
my
it. Y'all keep.
Granddaughter's father-in-law used to race cars,
I
so
got
he
you,
had
Jessica.
a, God, I don't know, 15, 20 foot
I'm
enclosed trailer.
the, Karen says do, Karen
So
says
he
do,
drives
Karen
it up
says do.
there
That's all right. Jessica
and
got
picks
that?
me up in my car.
Jessica,
You need to tell these seniors, they need to
But
have
I
that
gave my
second,
car
that
to
new
someone.
shingle shot that just,
Because really, when I went
I
to
had one.
Vietnam, I wasn't expecting to come
of
back
course.
anytime soon.
my daughter
I
who
was
is a
going around and
pediatrician
traveling
said,
some other
what
countries and all.
kind of
So I
idiot
said,
mama
you know, when I come
gets
back,
a
then I'll see
shingle
about it.
shot
But I
a
got
week
to
after
miss
they've
mine.
gotten the
I
flu
have a
shot in the same
15-year-old
arm? I said, that was my
great-grandson.
thinking. But anyway,
It will be
Yes,
16,
and-
October 21st.
oh, it was worse
I
than
have a
that.
great
But I
granddaughter
saw my
that just
doctor and I
turned
said, look,
13,
David
the
Thompson was my
29th
doctor,
of
Francis
September.
Thompson's brother, and he passed away.
And she has a little
He has
sister
been
that
in
will
our
be
wedding and we all grew up
7,
together, so,
December the 8th.
anyway.
And I have the
uh,
other granddaughter.
The doctor he
has
left
a
me
little
to,
boy that's 3.
who is ready
Both
to
my
leave
granddaughters
right
are
now,
30 and 33.
said, look, I've got it down here to
And
discuss this.
my daughter is 51.
He said, you need to get
My
that
daughter
new
wants me
shingle
to
shot. And I said, I got
move in
it.
with
I've
her,
already
so
gotten
I'm
the
not
old one.
sure
He
she
said,
wants
this
to
one
get
is
an
like
apartment.
95
She said,
to
Mom, you said
98%.
come in with me. You know, Mom,
Effective.
you're
And he
70.
said,
I
do
said,
you know
"Kid,
anybody
just
that got the
turned
old one that
69." She
just
said,
did
"Mom,
work? Yeah, I do.
that's the
And
max.
they were
Listen,
having a horrible
you
case
just
in the
as
eye
well
of the
think
head.
of it.
He said,
I said,
look,
well, I
it
don't
might
know.
make your arm
I'm
sick.
77.
You know, you might run
You
through
don't
da,
look
da,
at
da,
it.
da, da.
Oh, no, me
And
neither.
so I said, okay,
Me
can you
neither.
do
And
it?
she doesn't
No,
mean
go to
that.
your
She
pharmacist.
just
So I went
means,
to my
you know,
pharmacist in
she lived in
Delhi,
Vegas for
who
years.
established, gives me
And
flu
we
shots.
weren't a lot of times
I said,
close.
hit me.
Nice
Bye,
meeting
y'all.
you.
Bye.
Nice
See
meeting
ya.
y'all.
I'm feeling better. I was running fever, woke up with fever 101 Saturday morning. Been on Tylenol.
My son got shots yesterday and he was running fever this morning, but I gave him my.
Harold, if I can do
But I'm-
anything with
I'm
the
fine,
resolution
you know.
stuff before
Yeah.
December, let me know.
Okay.
Cause I'll be glad
I'm
to
gonna
take
make
Sure.
copies of this
Michelle.
resolution and
Good luck
take it
with
to
your
Francis and
conversation.
Bubba.
Good.
I'll
say,
start,
look,
I'll start the
This
the
is
email
what we're
phone
thinking
call
about.
list
What do y'all think?
about mid-November.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
I started to say, let me get to the governor first.
Oh, yeah, no, it won't be.
Yeah, you need to get
No,
to the
I
governor
just
first.
wanna say,
Don't
this
wanna
is what
blindside
we're
him.
thinking.
That's
Why don't
Good.
you get Harold to call you when he gets through with
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
so
Or
that.
send me an email,
You and
either
I
way,
could
here,
go-
Harold.
'Cause
You know
I-
what?
I-
Yeah, you get an umbrella.
Oh gosh, the Delhi Livestock Show dedication.
Uh-huh. To you, fabulous, and do you know,
And Mike Benson. I was nominated by
first
Keith,
one,
and I nominated Mike Benson. And when they did paper ballots, because I was there, Francis said, we need to do paper ballots, and I went outside. And, when they counted them, the ballots were equal.
uh-huh,
And of course, we're very good friends.
yeah.
And so, Darlene Eubanks said, dedicate it to both of them. I mean,
First one, I am
Ann-
gonna miss, and God knows when, and we're gonna be in.
Ann is,
You know,
she nominated Francis.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, nominated Mike. Had I been thinking when I came back in the room, Dale and I had walked outside, cause together we had nominated him. I had been thinking, and I wasn't, I would have said, I haven't voted yet, let me vote, and I'd have voted for Mike, and it would have been him.
No.
Because Dale wouldn't have thought about that, but I didn't think about it.
Well,
But anyway, both of us are gonna be, the livestock show's dedicated to us.
Well, good.
Ain't they?
Go get gumbo with Beta Sigma Phi. I'll tell them to look for you. I am so excited.
y'all are ready.
Bye, thank you.
All righty,
We're gonna have a crew apparently.
all right, sounds good. Thank you.
Be careful, I'm gonna give this to Karen, and if you need anything, email or call me.
This is cooler in February in Egypt. Go out, yeah. My husband, yeah.
Right.
Layers.
I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to put the milk in. Alright.
I remembered to put water out this time.
Pause. Come on.